Hey NAI football fans, Corey Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIAFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, NAI football fans, we're back with another edition of the NAIF Ball Podcast, powered by AdCraft Custom Apparel and Merch, the best in the business since 1974. 50 years in the business. Just check them out. They're really good folks, making really good products for a really good price. Been supporting us for years now. They are definitely the best, but you don't come to hear me rant about that. We have finally made it. We have gotten past the first round and the second round and the quarters and the semis, and now we have finally made it to the first of the two combatants in the national championship game. Got head coach Matt McCarty. Coach, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Middle of spring football right now, which is always a great experience, and it's fun to be back out in the field with the guys. And it's always great to be back talking football with you.
Absolutely. It was, another great season for Northwestern, a streak snapping season, if you will, for Northwestern. You don't get to hoist the red banner this year, but you get back to it. You're making it. Heck, you've made the national championship. What? 2 out of the last 3 years? 3 out of the last 4 years? I can't math right tonight.
Yeah, I think yeah, 3 of the last 4 years, and yeah, it was an awesome season. I mean, it's obviously you would have loved to have won that final game, but yeah, we ran into a really good team that last week, and we battled. We gave everything we got, and we just came up short. And it was an awesome season, though. I think as you look back and you reflect on it, how it ended, you can't let that really kind of tarnish what you accomplished throughout the season. We were able to knock off Drake, which was an awesome win, and then yeah, go undefeated through our conference play, which is not easy to do, and get our way back to a championship. And just proud of our guys and how they traversed that season with the expectations coming off of winning a championship. It's a different feeling.
Yeah, let's take a look at that Drake game. You're down 21-13. You find a way. It's a 38-yard touchdown catch by Connor McQuillan with 43 seconds left to send it to overtime. Actually, sorry. Yeah, and then you get the 2-point conversion to tie it up to go to overtime. You go 90 yards in just under 2 minutes. Man, y'all had to be cooking with gas that last drive.
It was it was special. I mean, I think about it, I guess I got chills thinking back to it, and that's really when I knew we had something special with this group. Um, yeah, it was a battle. Drake ended up being a conference champ and an FCS playoff team, and we're on the road, and yeah, to go 90 yards in the last couple minutes to tie the game. Our best players made some huge plays. There was a 4th down and 6 that we picked up on that drive where I think we completed it to Mike at about for 3 yards, and he fought for the last 3 yards and got us a first down. And then we hit Connor for a touchdown, and Mike caught the 2-point conversion. And just watching how those guys willed themselves to win that football game was pretty special. Our defense had some huge stops, and that was a fun game. It was an awesome atmosphere playing in Des Moines. Our fans were phenomenal, and yeah, when you see your fans storm the field at an away game, that's a pretty cool experience.
No, that is super, super cool. We move on. You get into a little bit of the meat of your GPAC schedule, and then you get to late October where it's somebody's great idea to put Dort and Morningside back to back. And then, as if that wasn't enough, they go and do it again this year. So, I mean, I know there's only so many ways you can draw up a schedule, but dude, really?
It's yeah, those are a couple physical weeks of football, and it's a good test. And yeah, you don't really get much recovery between the two, but yeah, those are good tests. Physically, they're good tests. Mentally, the one thing is you have your guys' attention. So it's yeah, this year again, they're both late in the year, late October, and they'll be big games like they always are.
Yeah, and that Dort game, it's you're up 17-0. You extend the lead out to 35-14. That one's not really terribly much in question there. The Morningside game, though, you get down 13-0 early, mid-second quarter. Is there a little bit of oh no, not again? Is there a little bit of chatting with your guys, going, no, we're not quitting on this?
Yeah, it's our guys don't get flustered, and it's some of the mental training that we do with our guys. We talk a lot about dealing with adversity and handling adversity, and really not really concerning ourselves with what's going on in the game, and just keep playing present. And I think some of that stuff helps us in situations like that. And then they just kept plugging away, and we were able to really make some good adjustments. The game was played in an absolute blizzard, which was interesting. You could barely see the other sideline. You didn't really know where you were on the field. It was the first time in my life I'd ever been a part of anything like that. So that was uh, made it just a little bit more interesting of a game. But it was our guys just battled. We kept playing, kept fighting, and made some big plays when we needed to. Um, and if you look back over the last handful of years in our games versus Morningside, it typically has seemed like one team has jumped out to an early lead and the other team has found a way to win the game. And I'm thankful that was us this year.
Talk about getting the monkey off your back with with Morningside in the regular season. That's one where in the regular season it's been like it had been like what 12 or so games in a row.
Yeah, it's been too many, I can tell you that. But it's one of those where we try not to make that game bigger than it is, and it's the game usually means a lot, right? The conference championship's usually on the line. But ultimately, we know it's going to be a game that reveals a lot about who we are and what we need to do better. And those have been really good tests for us in terms of who we are, what we need to do to improve. I think unfortunately in 2022 when we lost the opening game of the year, I think on the road by one maybe, um, that was big for us, and taking steps that we need to end up winning a championship that year. And so those games are good. I think ultimately they prepare you for the postseason. It's a great team. They're going to be well coached. They're going to challenge you in a lot of ways, and that's what we want as we get ready for some big games late in the season.
And obviously you get into the playoffs, and how weird is it? Talked about this with Chris Oliver a couple weeks ago. How weird was it sitting at home with your feet propped up, watching other people play football, knowing that you're still in the playoffs?
Yeah, as someone who's been doing this for a while, it was different. That first round of the playoffs, that bye, was different. And the hard part is you didn't know who you were going to play. I think we knew we would play one of the teams playing in the opening round, and with how it's based off of geography so much, we could kind of break it down where we thought we might see one of three teams depending on who won. And until we got those matchups, we really had no idea. So that week you couldn't really prepare for a certain opponent, which I think made it a challenge, um, for a bye in the postseason, not knowing who you could play. If it was bracketed and you knew you were playing one of those two teams, that would help. But yeah, that was interesting. It was definitely a change.
I honestly thought that they were going to send y'all Dickinson State just like they have like 17 times in the past, but instead they give you Dort again. So there's that, and you get outgained by 120 yards. Um, and by Jove, you still end up winning by 7.
Yeah, that was one of those games where it's a matchup where, we didn't there's not really much advantage. playing being the home team there just because we're 10 miles apart. So whenever we play there, they play here. It's really home game no matter what. You're sleeping in your bed. It's that Thanksgiving weekend where the visiting teams, it is a challenge for the visiting teams because they usually have to travel. They have to travel over Thanksgiving. It's a little bit tougher. We didn't, as the number one team, we didn't get any of those advantages in that matchup. And it was, Dort was ready to play. I think it was, um, our guys played really well defensively. I thought we executed at a really high rate. It was a physical football game, and our guys found ways to win. And it's one of those games where I think we were better the next 3 weeks because of that game, which was huge.
Yeah, I mean, just based off that, I was wondering if maybe Jalen wasn't 100%. You go in, you win a tight game against Saint Xavier. It's tied at halftime. It's a 3-point game after three. I gotta say, y'all had me fooled there for a little bit. I was I was ready to short sell that, and I did. If you remember, I picked Georgetown. Um,
I didn't want to bring it up, but yeah, I remember.
you
No, I'm just
know,
kidding.
I was wrong. I was wrong. And your defense steps up against Georgetown like crazy hard. Georgetown has, you know, 4.7 yards per play on the day there. It's just a day where you hold Darius Neal to 15 attempts for 28 yards, and when you shut down what they wanted to do running, they really didn't have a variety of weapons other than Darius last year.
Yeah, they were a really good football team, and I thought we had to make some adjustments defensively to what we were doing at that time of the season, just based on a couple of injuries we had up front. And I thought at that point, when we got to that Georgetown game, our guys were starting to get a good feel for what we were doing schematically, and I think that really helped as they were able to play at a high level going into that game. And yeah, our guys played really well. We were able to shut down the run, and we were able to get a lead early, which was huge. Our offense, Connor McQuillan, busted a big run early, and that really just got the momentum going. And going back the week earlier, St. Xavier was an awesome football team. I thought Coach Feminist had a really good group. We've ran into them a few times, and that was a really talented football team. That group was really good. And that was a battle because they had some really good football players, and I thought that team was much better than where they were ranked as well.
And then we get to Durham, and just kind of going to go through my thought process. I'm looking over at the Kaiser sideline, and I'm going, where is Bryce Beasley? Where the crap is Bryce Beasley? And then walk over to coach and go, Coach, you got something to tell us about your quarterback? And he went, Nope. Nope. You know nothing.
Yeah, it was I would say it was a surprise not seeing him out there. Ultimately, I don't think it really affected the game because they were able to control the line of scrimmage. So we didn't make their other quarterback have to beat us throwing the football. Um, you know, though they were really they were awesome football team. Coach Socha, his staff. I think those guys, the way that they played. Obviously, I'd love to go back and start that game over because we started off about the worst way you possibly could. Um, but we dug ourselves a hole, and it was tough to climb back out of that. We fought really hard to get it back to a 3-point game in the fourth quarter, and thought we had a really good momentum on our side. And our squib kick went about 5 yards too far, and they picked it up in the run and housed it, which kind of squelched all momentum. And we kept fighting after that, but that was a really good football team, and they deserved to win that game.
It never fails. I'm sitting here, entering the fourth quarter. I'm like, okay, maybe I don't have to send an angry text to the home office this year that, you know, uh, there's no way I can send in an MVP. That's no. I have to send that text every year. Um, because it never fails. It's going to be a tight game midway through the fourth quarter. And that's when they want me to put it in. And I'm like, you've got to be joking. There is no way on God's green earth you're going to make me make a decision right now.
Yeah, that game, we were able to, and at halftime, we thought, our goal at halftime was to try to make them uncomfortable in the fourth quarter. We just had to keep fighting and keep clawing. If we could get a turnover or two or just keep getting some stops and just get things going offensively. And then we were able to do that. We had, a surprise onside kick that Eli Stater recovered. Then we're able to hit McQuillan for a big touchdown down the sidelines, and that really got the momentum going back in our favor. And then unfortunately, that they're so good on special teams. They do an outstanding job on special teams. And, you saw that over the last 2 years, having played them and watching them play, they've won so many games on big special teams, whether it's a kick return or a punt return. They've made such big plays on special teams. And unfortunately that they were able to do that again in that fourth quarter, late in that fourth quarter, to kind of put that game out of reach.
Well, let's go to a happier idea, which is who you got coming back for 2024. I won't make you dwell on negatives anymore tonight. So you've got a lot coming back. It's absurd. Nearly all of your offensive skill players are coming back, including, of course, Jalen Gramstad and Connor McQuillan, who, if my math is right, he's got to be a senior next year.
He is, yeah. So he was a freshman 2020, that COVID year, and that year we had quite a few guys who are playing for us right now who are freshmen who played in that first championship game when we lost to Lindsey Wilson, and so those guys are now all fifth year seniors using that COVID year, which that's nice to have those guys back.
If it makes you feel any better about that 2020 game, their starting quarterback almost won a Grey Cup this year. So, I mean, there is that, But you've also got...
Yeah,
Good.
He was pretty good.
You've got Tanner Shelton coming back. Didn't have him last year due to injury. Austin Gerard is coming back. You are losing Michael Story, who obviously with the Hail Mary catch in 2020 is the guy who sends you to the national championship. Almost 1,500 yards receiving for him. That's absurd.
Yeah, his production will be tough to replace. And Mike was just such a, he made the biggest catches in the biggest games. If you look over his 5-year career, really, Mike was super consistent. But when we needed a big play, it didn't matter with his freshman year through this last year. Mike was there to make that play for us. And so we'll lose that. But I'm really excited about some of our younger guys. Austin Gerard's had a phenomenal spring. He really came on in the postseason for us last year. Getting Tanner back will be big. And then, with Connor at running back, but even a healthy Logan Meyer at running back is big for us as well. Just kind of that two-headed monster back there. And, I feel like up front, we lost 2 starters up front, but Travis Grover was a starter for us. In the 2022 national championship game, didn't play last year and is back. And that's just been a big help for us up front as well.
And then defensively, you've got an all-conference first teamer coming back at each level of your defense between Jacob Dragstraw on your line, Ben Egley, and in your linebacking core, and Cody Mosier with 10 interceptions. Just a beast there in the defensive backfield coming back. You do lose Ben Kingery, but you've got a new old friend coming back at linebacker to have one last run in Orange City.
Yeah, like you said, we feel like we've got some really good players at each level. Jacob Dragster, Tristan Voss, Drake Harder up front. Those guys have a lot of experience for us, and really feel like we can do some good things up front with those guys. And then having Tristan Mulder and Ben Egley back at linebacker is huge. And then we've added Parker Fryer back. And anytime you can add a first-team All-American, Conference Player of the Year back, that definitely helps. Parker is one of the best defensive players I've coached, and just having him back and seeing the things that he can do throughout spring ball, it's fun watching him run around up there in our defense. And then the back end, Cody Mosier was phenomenal. We moved him from corner to safety last year, led the country in interceptions. Really is a ball hawk and a great leader for us back there. Return all 4 starters in the secondary. 3 of them will be fifth-year seniors, which is nice to have that experience. Um, and then we have Clayton Bosma and Kyler Fritz played a lot as a freshman for us last year, had an interception in the championship game. So defensively, spring's been fun. We've been able to kind of pick up where we left off and really just kind of build on what we're doing defensively. And it's been fun to see that group continue to grow.
And then I don't typically talk special teams because I don't, I don't really, they're kind of hard to analyze sometimes. But got a second teamer in Eli Stater coming back and a first team long snapper. Long snappers do not get enough love. In Ty Schaefer coming back.
Right.
Look, man, if you got a guy who can put it in center mass, you're going to be fine.
You do. Ty Schaefer is the man for us. Ty does everything. Plays receiver. He'll long snap. He'll short snap. He'll run down on every cover unit. He's been a holder before for us. The kid really could do anything. He is a football player. If you look up a football player, you'll see Ty Schaefer. That kid's awesome. He does everything. He's one of those just tough as nails kids. And then Eli Stater. Eli's phenomenal. I love Eli. Eli's like a folk hero, cult hero around here. He's got our school record for a field goal. Stater the Raider. He's the man. So really glad to have Eli out there. He's a great weapon to have. Last year he punted for us as well. Just does a phenomenal job, and he's very confident. And had a huge onside kick for us in the championship game. We found a way to get him a couple, fake attempts last year because he's such a good athlete. We got to find ways to get him the ball.
Yeah, I just you're talking about the onside kick, and I'm sitting here thinking, the NFL's going to that weird new kickoff thing. That's going to just completely eliminate that surprise onside kick. That's not going to be any fun.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting watching those games and seeing how that plays out. Everything that change, it takes some getting used to for sure.
Well, Coach, we know one thing for sure, and that is if you're not continuously moving forward, trying to improve yourself, you're going to be moving backwards. Doesn't matter if you're a national champion. Doesn't matter if you're a runner-up. Doesn't matter if you're the worst team in the nation. This is the way of things. So what area of your program, whether it be something on or off the field, are you really looking to focus on in 2024?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm really excited about the way our guys have. Losing a championship game is tough, and I talked to our guys right away of, you can look at it a couple different ways. I view it as a learning experience, and I view it as because of that loss, something good will happen. We'll be better because of it, and our guys have really embraced that and have had a really good off season. I think that's really important. Just being able to be present as you go through the off season and focus on what needs to be done each day. It's easy to want to skip ahead to next fall or skip ahead to the postseason, or you can't do that. And our guys have really embraced that. Just that ability to focus on now and how every moment, every rep, every practice, every player on the team, everyone matters, and we want to make the most of every opportunity that we get. And these guys have done that, and they continue to embrace that. And if they do that and continue to do that consistently well, everything else will take care of itself. And so I'm fortunate to get to work alongside some really good coaches and work with some awesome kids. And, I love the guys that we work with and the work that they put in.
Well, Coach, I know one thing that I've seen over our time covering the NAIA is that the GPAC is going to be consistently tough. I mean, Dort's got an absolute metric ton coming back. Steve Ryan swears up, down, and sideways that he's going to have one quarterback next year, and not three. Hastings was actually relatively good last year. Had a really great season 2 years ago. Was able to keep that pace up last year. Mountain Marty has been a team that can catch you off guard. Midland's been inconsistent but good. Now you've added Waldorf to the mix. Dakota Wesleyan last year had a senior laden team, and who knows what if they can have had a good recruiting class, what they can put together. And then there's Briarcliff that you've also got to deal with that can bite you if you're not, um, paying attention. Talk to me about the growth and the trouble trying to avoid the obstacles of the GPAC.
Yeah, I think our league has really improved just the consistency of play from top to bottom. I think week in and week out, like you've mentioned, you have to be prepared to play your best because there's teams that can beat you. Everybody's got really good athletes. If you look at some of the skill players throughout our league, there's great receivers throughout our league, um, and you have to be ready to play. So you can't take weeks off in the way that you prepare. You can't look ahead. You have to be focused, and I think that's a benefit though for our teams because you have to be tested each week. You got to come ready to play. You can't just go through the motions and take a few weeks off and then have to show up and play again. So I think, like you mentioned, that the league continues to get better. I think we have felt as we've gotten into postseason play that we're better because of the league that we've played in. And I think the look throughout our league, there's been a few coaching changes, but there's really good coaches in our league. The teams are prepared well, and they're fun to compete against. Like I think our league, in terms of what we have for coaching staffs and the way that they do things, I think they do things the right way.
All right, give you a magic wand here, and you get to conjure up a 12th team out of somewhere. You've got 11 teams here. Do you try to find that 12th team so that you can get that second auto bid?
Yeah, and it's something we've talked about, and we with the North Star teams, needing a place to go. Really, it makes sense football wise of maybe like a football only conference like the Mid States does. Not sure that'll happen just with the state school private school thing.
Yeah.
If you look big picture, Grandview with where they're located, Grandview probably makes sense. That would be an absolute bear to add them to the league as well.
I was about to say,
But it
that's
would,
who you're going to start with? Bring me
but
Grandview?
I mean, yeah, it's they're the closest one. You asked me.
All right.
Yeah, so it's Benedictine's not far away. We could snag them maybe. Trying to think of other teams. It's just with where we're at though. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
The Heart's a really strong conference. KCAC's a strong conference. In terms of like their membership and what they have, and some of those have bounced from the Heart to the KCAC. It's just I think those North Star schools, as we could have a football only conference, that's something that could be feasible for those schools.
Yeah, maybe relaxing the rules a little bit for football, but I totally get it though. It's you want it to be that way, and make sure that you have, every school having the same set of Christian principles. So I totally get it. But yeah, it's like, oh man, if you could have added like Dickinson State and Valley City, that would have been primo.
Yeah, and it's because you don't want to see those schools, have to leave the NEI or whatever too, like Dakota State or Valley City, Mayville. Right now, it's like what can we do to help those schools? Because ultimately, it helps the entire, the NEI body in terms of what we're doing and what we can put on the field for football and just represented throughout the whole country. I think that's really really important. Um, it's just hard with how many transitions. In my time, you've seen USF leave and you've seen schools come and go, and how do you make the entire NAI as strong as it possibly could? And who knows if the NCAA changes, things could change. The next 5 to 10 years again, it might look completely different.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the all of the NIL stuff that's going on at the top level, you never know how that's going to trickle down. Um, I feel like you might find some D2s that are just wanting to kind of, and I know the NAI has NIL as well, but you might find a couple guys who are a little sick of the constant transfer portaling and all that stuff going on. That might like the benefits of the NAI. Who knows? You can find that 12th team. Listen, I bet there are a couple of teams in the conference, in the GPAC, that would love for either y'all or Morningside to get an auto bid, so it frees up an at-large for them.
Right. And with the playoff structure and how it's changed and gone to 20 teams, I think it opens it up. Like this year, getting Dorgan as the third team, I think that's huge. I would love to see it get to 24 teams, and I think that just makes sense in terms of top eight teams get a bye. It just cleans it up, and ultimately, that if you had added 4 more teams this year, you look at like Lindsey Wilson would have been a really good playoff team yet if they would have got in. Ottawa, Arizona would have been a really good playoff team that could have got in. I think you're going to see some really good matchups in that first round, and eventually the right teams are going to be left playing. And I think for our overall brand, that doesn't hurt our brand at all, having 24 teams in the playoffs or more teams competing in the postseason. And so, yeah, hopefully it gets to that at some point. And I think with the Division I, if it breaks away and what those power conferences do in terms of the money with the NCAA, there may be some trickle-down effect. And the NAIA is great football. It's a great brand. We don't have to deal with a lot of the headaches, like you talked about, the transfer portal, the NIL stuff. Our kids, it's not just about football or not just about the sport. It's a lot bigger than that. I think NAIA is an awesome niche right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And in as much as, I've got my team. I've been a Florida State fan since before I was born. I was at a Florida State game. That's born and raised, dyed in the wool. I honestly like watching NAIA football more than I like watching most any other Division I game.
Yeah.
There's more reality to it.
Right. And it's great football. And there's, you look across the board, especially as you get into the postseason, there's some phenomenal athletes at our level, and guys that, could maybe be playing at a different level, but they're choosing to play where they are because maybe it's the type of school they want to go to, or, different reasons. But that's really good football. And there's really good coaches too. And it's been fun to just, for me personally, get to know some of the other coaches from competing against them, and running into Coach Oliver, who does a phenomenal job, or Coach Feminist and Coach Stan at Dickinson State. There's a lot of really good coaches out there at our level, and I think, the NAIA football brand is phenomenal.
And NAIA made is totally a thing. Look, I am so proud of guys like Andrew Rupchich, who are he's the backup guard for the Titans on that right side. That's freaking cool. I'm now, I'm not rooting for injury. No, that would be terrible. I'm rooting for the Titans to do so well that they put in their second team O-line,
Right.
and just
Yep.
seeing that's awesome. So, I agree. We're gonna start to see a couple of these guys. I mean, you see it with Cam Dukes doing so well in the CFL, with the spring leagues, with the XFL. We're gonna have guys that get shots, that get a look in the NFL. It's a great time to be a fan of NAIA football.
Yeah, it is, and it's just, I think it's going to continue to get better, which is really, really exciting. I think as our, if you see teams adding football, or hopefully this is, it just keeps growing, and I think it's great to see where it's going right now. I think it's on a great path.
Well, Coach, thanks for coming on the show tonight. So excited to watch and see what happens in the GPAC, what happens with Northwestern. It's going to be another great year. So thanks for taking the time out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the NAIAFBALL Podcast, powered by AdCraft USA. Be sure to contact them for all your custom apparel, merch, and uniform needs. Thanks also to our newest sponsor, Telemetry Sports. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe to the podcast and to our YouTube channel, and leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. As always, if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/NAIAFBall and become a patron. We can't do what we do without our sponsors and listeners like you.